All right, let's jump right into this explainer. We're going to start things off with a slightly absurd but honestly perfectly accurate metaphor for the modern human condition. It's a fable about three monkeys. So, there's this brilliant Indonesian fable about three wealthy, gilded apes. They're sitting around, covering their eyes, ears, and mouths. But hey, these are not the wise, mystic monkeys you're probably thinking of. No, these guys are totally paralyzed by anxiety. They're sitting there just intensely insecure, watching everyday humans enjoy this massive feast. And why can't they join in? Well, it's because they are clutching food inside a jar, and their hands are trapped. They absolutely refuse to let go of the food to free their hands. It's literally a monkey trap of their own making. And you know, this whole scenario, it perfectly mirrors our own modern condition. I mean, why do we trap ourselves when freedom is literally sitting right there in front of us? Well, according to the text we're unpacking today, it's because we're missing this fundamental triadic structure in our lives. We need a synthesis of three things: empathy, sensibility, and responsibility.
Let's look at Pillar 1, empathy as first philosophy.
To actually free ourselves from that jar, we have to completely reorient our relationship to other people. Think back to those three apes for a second. The source text points out that they're constantly talking over each other, blaming one another, and just shrinking away from any real interaction. Basically, they're completely failing at the three dimensions of empathy. And phenomenologists will tell you these three dimensions are the absolute bedrock of human connection. See, empathy isn't just some downstream byproduct of logic, it is the first philosophy. We've got affective empathy, which is that primal biological contagion. You know that thing that makes you wince when you see someone else stub their toe? Then there's cognitive empathy. That's the imaginative perspective taking you need to truly grasp someone else's context. And finally, aesthetic empathy, or Einfühlung, which is our drive to find meaning by projecting ourselves into the external world. Without this three-part structure, the universe just doesn't have any moral gravity, and we're stuck being isolated apes.
That brings us to Pillar 2, surviving relentless chronos.
Okay, so once we're actually connected to the world through empathy, we are immediately hit with the crushing weight of time. Remember how those apes were terrified of running out of time and food? That is a perfect metaphor for Chronos. In ancient Greek thought, Chronos is this unrelenting, quantitative ticking clock. He is personified by the god Saturn, who, fun fact, relentlessly devoured his own children. So yeah, not exactly Father of the Year. In our world today, Chronos is the anxiety of aging, the endless tracking of our productivity, those quarterly metrics we all stress over. And sure, it builds civilization, but if it's the only thing we focus on, it completely consumes us.
Now, the philosopher Edmund Husserl called our psychological interface with Chronos sensibility. He said we don't just experience this razor-thin, knife-edge present. Instead, our minds actually build what he called a duration block. We have the primal impression of right now, right? But we're constantly stretching it out. We use retention to drag the past along with us and pretension to anxiously anticipate the future. Now, this mental gymnastics allows us to endure the ticking clock, but man, it is an exhausting, heavy way to live if it's our only mode.
Which leads us to Pillar 3, seizing transformative kairos.
Living entirely in that relentless grind of Chronos, that creates some deep spiritual burnout. It's exactly why those gilded apes shrink away the second someone demands a real decision from them. And this is where we have to shift our paradigm. On one side, we have Chronos, quantitative aging, the endless sequential maintenance of everyday life. But on the other side, we have Kairos. Kairos is qualitative. It's that transformative, opportune rupture where true ethical action actually happens. To get our hands out of the jar, we literally have to make the leap from Chronos over to Kairos.
So what exactly is Kairos? Well, the ancients didn't depict it as some weary old man with a scythe. Instead, Kairos was a lithe, fast-moving young man running on his tiptoes. And here is my absolute favorite detail. Statues actually showed him with a long forelock of hair in the front, but totally bald in the back. It's such a brilliant metaphor. You have to grab the opportunity by the hair as it approaches you, because once it passes you by on those winged feet, there is literally nothing left to grab onto, and the moment is just gone forever.
This completely redefines the idea of responsibility. In this framework, responsibility isn't just some endless administrative chore. It is the sudden, demanding act of kairos. In fact, etymologically, the concept ties back to archery and weaving. Think about it. It's that exact fraction of a second an archer has to release an arrow with perfect force, or the precise millisecond a weaver must pass the shuttle through a momentary gap in the threads. It requires you to step up, to take action right then and there.
Let's talk about the bridge, the sacred pause of Ma. Now you might be wondering, How do we actually transition from the exhausting ticking clock of Chronos to this decisive action of Kairos? Well, we find the answer in this incredibly beautiful Japanese aesthetic concept called Ma. Ma translates roughly to the interval, the gap, or the space in between. Think of it as the silence between the musical notes. That's what actually gives a song its shape. In our modern world, which is so dominated by automated metrics and incredible speed, Ma is the sacred pause. It gives us the breathing room we desperately need to actually spot the approaching Kairos before it sprints right past us.
Freeing the trapped hand.
It is right there, in this sacred pause, that our gilded ape finally looks down and realizes a pretty profound truth. The jar isn't holding him prisoner at all. His own clenched fist is. To live freely, to live ethically, we have to synthesize this entire triad we've been talking about. Step 1 is the empathic primer. We have to truly feel the world so our actions actually have moral weight. Step 2 is sensible incubation. We use our time consciousness to endure the daily grind of Chronos, putting in the work, pulling back the bowstring. And finally, step 3 is responsible execution. When that aperture opens up, we seize Kairos and we strike.
By mastering this process, we stop being those gilded apes, totally paralyzed by our own anxious metrics. We finally realize that the only way to be free is to make a simple choice. You have to let go of the food to free your hand. When we let go of our obsessive need to control linear time, our hands are finally free to take meaningful, world-changing action.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. The universe is demanding a responsible, transformative act from you right now. Honestly, it always is. So, are you going to just sit there and passively watch the clock of Chronos tick away? Or are you going to step forward and seize the moment of Kairos? The choice is entirely yours.